welcome to another edition of Angela's Talk, or actually Autism Talks Radio. It's with a heavy heart that I am letting people know that we lost 2 family members in 1 week. I have a child that's recovering from autism, and at one point had the developmental pediatrician took her off the autism spectrum completely. Unfortunately, puberty has hit and autism is rearing its head again. And I don't expect a lot of, oh my goodness, you poor thing. There's nothing poor about my daughter. It's just that at puberty, this sometimes does happen with recovered children. Now, I want to talk about death and mourning, how this all plays in together for a child that has autism. If I say it once, if I say it twice, if I say it 100 times, it's really important to consider your schedule and to keep it current. You have to keep the schedule as much as possible. For instance, last Friday, when the service of my dear sister-in-law was going on, she knew she could count. My daughter knew that she could count on going to her homeschool support group that afternoon. She knew that was going to happen, and that helped her get through that time. As she held on to me, as she looked at me with questions in her eyes and not understanding, but she knew she had to keep her voice quiet. You know, mourning is so different for so many people. You know, we didn't set Shiva. You know, my sister-in-law, her family was not Jewish, so we didn't have to worry about that. But it did bother me that we didn't do that. And there's so many different cultures. But if I was going to say anything, make sure you keep the routine as much as possible, if it's at all possible. So, again, we're getting ready to go to the homeschool support group because we mustn't mess with the schedule. You know, we're going to enjoy some companionship, and they'll be playing games. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to get off of here pretty quick. But I just wanted to clue in some things that we've done that has been helpful. For instance, we have done the memory book. She used some clippings from magazines. She drew some pictures of what Katie had meant to her. That's my sister-in-law, her aunt. And it was very touching, very moving. Children on the autism spectrum deal very well with pictures, paint, a medium of that sort. It means a lot to them. And I highly encourage you to consider this if you've lost a loved one. Now, I know this may sound strange, but depending on how close the loved one was that passed away, how important they were to the child, if it's possible, find out the perfume or cologne that person wore, put it on a shirt. You could put it in the bed with the child, you know, the sensory thing. Smells sometimes can be very comforting. Even if the child was around the person, let's say they used Pine Sol a lot. And just go ahead and go in your home and use that same scent, provided that they do not have a reaction. I know this sounds very bizarre when I'm talking about, but it really does help. It honestly does. Even for the absence of a person, like let's say that they've gone a tour of duty. You know, make sure you have some of their cologne or perfume. Put it on a blanket or something that they sleep next to. It can bring them great comfort when they're used to having them at home. You know, there's a lot of children that have autism that have family that are in the armed forces, i.e. mom or dad, one of the two. So this is very important to note. You know, loss occurs in many different forms. So a memory book, keeping a schedule, explaining, which I had to do for my daughter, because she did not get that her aunt was gone. She couldn't understand death. And she's 10 years old. She understands it now. It just took a few moments, few days to get her to understand. And I used books. I used dolls, where a doll lays down, goes to sleep forever. For that's what happened to her aunt. She went to sleep and she basically just never woke up. Very little brain activity. We don't know if it was a series of seizures. She had MS. To explain as simply as possible is important. They may want to know every detail. That may not be possible. And just say, this is what we know for now. If I learn more, I will tell you. Even if it's possible that you will never learn more. It's good to know that they know that you'll help. You'll be there. You'll inform them. The two most important parts of what I want to say is that the child needs to know that they are loved and they are not alone. Even if they have full-blown autism. I think it's important to let the child know this. It's very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go off and keep our schedule once again. We're going to go to our homeschool support group. I have a homeschool show called Angela's Homeschool. First Angela's Homeschool. So, I thought it'd be better to say that way. First Angela's Homeschool. I also have a Facebook by that name. On Twitter, I have Autism Talks Radio, which that's the venue we're on right now. I just want to remind people. We're on Autism Talks Radio. And it's important, it's vital that we talk about these issues. If you have any questions, if you've lost a loved one and your child's having a hard time, please send me a message and we can talk about it. We can support one another. And I think that's good. You can find me on Spreaker. I go by the name of Angela Truth. Because the truth will not go away. The truth is here. The truth is with us. I thank you. I thank you for being there. I thank you for loving yourself and your child. Please remember yourself. Because without you, how can your child learn? How can your child... you just really have to take care of yourself. I wish my sister-in-law had. It's so important. Especially if you have a chronic disease like MS. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate your attention. Please pass this on if you want. We're a family dealing with death right now, and I'm not enjoying this, but I am enjoying new ways of teaching, new ways of telling my child that she's loved. Because that's an important thing to a child with autism. And not very often do they fully grasp what love is. As far as really understanding these ideas that if someone's passed on, you can still love them. Abstract thinking, it's a little out there. I mean, really, someone goes to sleep and they just never wake up. It does sound like a fairy tale. And fairy tales can sometimes have happy endings. Well, this is where we're at today, folks. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas for a future podcast, I'm all ears. I have quite a few ideas, actually. So I'll talk with you later. Thank you for listening to Autism Talks Radio, where every voice, even silent ones, have value.